Welcome, welcome, welcome to Self-Care for Educators. I am so excited that you are here today, whether you are here live or watching us on the YouTube. So I am Dr. Desiree Alexander. I am your host for today. I am the founder CEO of Educator Alexander Consulting. These are all of the awesome ways you can contact me. If you're watching us on the YouTube channel, you can look right underneath the video in the description to get the link of resources for today. So what do we have coming up? IdeaCon is next week around Chicago, Illinois. It's not in Chicago, but around Chicago, Illinois. And I will be there on the 14th on Valentine's Day, showing the love. So if you're going to be there, definitely check out one of my sessions. Then we have creating assessments to engage the modern learner with Canva next weekend. So if you're like, I use Canva, I make flyers. Well, how can you use it in the classroom, right? Or if you're like, I keep hearing about this thing, come and find out about it next weekend. And then we have accommodations and modifications. So Dr. Marilyn came and did 2 sessions for us before, all around SPED, and now she's going to come back and do accommodations and modifications. And then we get to March, cultivating brave spaces in English classrooms, equity in action. Cannot wait for the awesome Dr. Sosan. And then we have empowering student voice with tech tools with Debbie. Debbie is in the EA family. She comes and talks about all kinds of things with us. She's going to come back in a second. And then we have ELA Teachers 20 Best Technology Tools. So this is a paid session, but if you're interested in that, you can go to that website and find out more. Digital storytelling in the classroom. Yes, with Victoria. Victoria is just yes. And then we have Debbie coming on back with Tech Up Math. I know math is one of those things like, we can't use all this technology. Yes, you can. She's going to show you how. And then we have educational leadership SLLA test prep. So if you're interested in educational leadership certification and you have to take that SLLA test, I'm going to tell you all about the logistics and the mindset you need to get yourself in. Then we have affinity groups, creating a space for self-advocacy for Muslim Arab female students. Again, one that I'm all about. So if you're like, well, I don't have any Muslim Arab students, or I don't have any female students, or just come and learn about creating that space for self-advocacy, right? So come and learn about affinity groups. And then we have ISTE. So, ISTE, the schedule changes all the time, but so far, this is my schedule, and I will be at ISTE in Philadelphia. Then we have NFTS. So you're hearing about that, all this AI in education, right? And I'm telling people, like, even if that's like not your jam, even if you're like, I don't know, I'm a little scared, learn about it. Don't get left behind. You want to know. Knowledge is power. So Rochelle is kind of our resident AI person. She comes and talks all the time. She's going to talk about NFTS in education. And then she's going to come back and talk about the metaverse. So now we're in the fall. So now we're in November. So all kinds of awesome courses. We're still going to be adding to them. We have 2 right now that we're planning. So y'all, it doesn't stop there for 2023. We always have our self-paced classes out there on certifications, SLLA, Google. If you just need some support time, I just had somebody schedule support time. We just talked about Zoom the whole time. How do we do Zoom and do it better? Okay, so there you go. And then, of course, tell me what you want to learn and what you may want to teach in 2023 for the EA webinar series. Oh, that was a lot, y'all. And if you're like, Desiree, that was so much. You went so fast. It's all on edalex.net/events. Go there and you see everything that I just showed you. Sometimes you see even a little bit more. You see all the new stuff. But you know what? I am ready to get started. Like all that was awesome. But I am ready to learn some self-care with a very, very dear friend of mine, Martita Robbins. I mean, she's just the stuff. You just say the stuff. She's just capital THE, the stuff. So I am all about learning about self-care for educators.
Hello, and welcome everyone. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Dr. Desiree Alexander, for allowing me the opportunity to connect with so many educators today. We have so many people on live right now, and I just want to thank each of you for being able to join us in this discussion. And for all of you who will be watching the replay, once again, thank you as well. So just a couple of things I want you to keep in mind as we go throughout our session today. As Dr. Alexander said, this will be about an hour and a half, and please excuse my typo, but I just want the message to be clear. Stay hydrated, not story hydrated. Okay, stay hydrated. So if you need to go grab a bottle of water or a warm tea, your favorite beverage, go ahead and do that. Make sure that you are in an environment that allows you to focus. So try to minimize distractions if possible. And I hope you have a way to take some notes, whether that's digitally or you're old school pen and paper, pencil and paper, writing it down. I want you to be able to take notes, because what I've learned from my experience as an educator is that whenever I write something down, I am more likely to remember it and I'm more likely to implement it. I don't want today's session to be one of those things that, I spent some time on a Saturday morning, or I watched a recording and now I'm going back to my life. No, 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 no. That's not what we're here for today, okay? I want you to take some notes so that you can do the things that you said you wanted to do. When you saw that title that we were talking about self-care for educators and you decided to sign up, you wanted to learn more about self-care and how you can implement that. So by taking those notes, you have a frame of reference to go back to implement those things you write down. You're staying hydrated and practicing self-care as we go throughout this training, and you are being focused by making sure your environment is non-distracting. So before we get to the good part, before we get into what you wanted to learn, I want to tell you a little bit about me so that you understand why I am one of the best authorities to teach you this as an educator. Myself, I had a 15-year career rather, as an educator in a rural school district in Northwest Louisiana. After earning my Bachelor of Arts in Secondary Education English, I returned to my alma mater to teach English to high school students. And at some point decided, not at some point, it was actually after 3 years of teaching that I decided I wanted to become a mentor teacher. The school district was in, and still is in, the teacher advancement program. And that particular position allowed me to mentor and lead other teachers on our campus in professional development, ongoing professional development at the school throughout the school day, but I was also teaching my own students in my own classroom. So I did that, and I even decided to return to university in order to earn my Master's of Education in Curriculum and Instruction with a focus in library science. You see, I knew I wanted to stay a teacher as long as possible, and I wanted to be able to make myself more available and do something else I was passionate about in the school system. And I love the library. Like, you know how in the 90s we had this expression here in the States about something being your jam? Books were my jam. Writing was my jam. Learning was my jam. And all those things still are. And I knew that by being a librarian, I could still teach and impact students, even if I wasn't teaching them the English subject. All right, get excited. So throughout my experience, I decided that I also wanted just a little bit more fun in my life. I love makeup. I love self-care. My journey with self-care and beauty and glamour started when I was actually first beginning college. So I decided to also be an independent beauty consultant. Throughout my career as an educator, I began to experience different changes in my own health. And along the way, I learned that I managed several chronic illnesses. I have arthritis and I have fibromyalgia. When I tell people that I have arthritis, they look at me and say, Martita, you're not 40 or older yet. What do you mean you have arthritis? It happens. Yes, I was also shocked when the doctor diagnosed me, but it made so much sense after going through the testing and receiving the diagnosis, and I knew how to manage it. Fibromyalgia was also a shock to me. I didn't understand, first of all, how to properly say the word or exactly what it meant. And after receiving the diagnosis, again, I was able to begin a treatment plan that allowed me to better manage that while I continued in my teaching career. Right now, I'm not teaching in the classroom because I became a certified life coach. And my mission is to help other people practice self-care, practice boundaries so that they can elevate for success and thrive. As a certified life coach, I'm also a mental health advocate. One thing I want people to be aware of is that it's okay to talk about mental health. It's okay to talk about things that were considered taboo, because the more conversations we have and the more safe spaces we create, the more we allow other people to realize what to do with the illnesses that they manage. So not only am I a mental health advocate, I'm also a person who manages a generalized depression disorder and generalized anxiety disorder. So one last thing I want to share about me, besides being a wife and a cat mom, I even had 15 minutes of fame in a different country. I was a guest on a Nigerian reality show called Teachers Niger. Different educators throughout the country of Nigeria were competing for grand prizes. And on episode 5, my sister and I made a guest appearance for teachers there to ask us about our experiences in classroom, as well as being an educator in America. So no pressure, just the two of us talking about American education, representing the country as best we could. But that experience was eye-opening for me. And if you want to see that video on that resource that you have, you'll be able to click on one of the links to go to that particular video. All right. So yeah, that's just a little bit about who Martita Robbins is, my experience as an educator, my experience with other things in my life while I manage my own chronic illnesses and mental wellness and help others to do the same while maintaining a career in education that they enjoy. So as a teacher, I'm sure you are very familiar with stating your objectives at the beginning of your lesson. So there are 3 things I want you to be able to walk away from this webinar with, okay? I want you to develop a self-care plan that helps you improve your life, family, and career. You're also going to create a list of actionable steps to improve your life as a result of self-care. And you're going to develop a holistic and realistic view of self-care. So I think I would be doing you a disservice if I just jumped right into talking about self-care without addressing one of the things that makes educators realize that we want to practice more of it. And this particular thing is called the Sunday Scaries. The Sunday Scaries is one of those colloquial phrases. And the definition is a feeling of anxiousness or dread that some people experience on Sunday evenings. And it may start on a Saturday. Some of you may be watching this Zoom live now and may be experiencing the Sunday Scaries. You know, you're like, oh my goodness, okay, Monday's coming up and I gotta finish lesson plans, I gotta finish grading papers, I gotta reply to those emails, I need to set up this parent-teacher conference, I need to sign up for this professional development thing. And it's like, oh, I just want to enjoy my weekend. I just want to enjoy my time. But I got to get ready for the work weekend. I'm just not excited about that. All right. So that's one way that those Sunday scaries could play out. It could also play out something like this.
What an awesome weekend, wasn't it? Oh, you're back. Well, I live here, so why do you show up every Sunday night? So I can introduce your friend and mine, the Sunday Scary.
But you see, this teacher was minding her own business. Sunday scaries showing up, reminded her she has papers to grade, emails to write, texts to respond to, all these things coming up for the week. And now she can't even sleep and enjoy her weekend, right? But be encouraged, hang in there, help is available. So let me paint a picture for you. You leave work on Friday, you're excited, you got the weekend, you got 2 whole days to do exactly what you want to do. And then you think you're gonna relax, enjoy a movie perhaps, enjoy your favorite book, have some downtime, some me time, right? And then it's time to get ready for work and you find yourself struggling to get dressed and you can't put your finger on it. You're like, I'm burned out. I'm not excited about my career. There are so many demands on my time and in my life that I'm just unsure on which direction to take next. I don't know what's the next best step. I don't know what I need to do to fix this or manage it. It feels like my life could be going, should I say it, out of control? Is this how I'm supposed to live every day until I retire? Is it normal to think that every week I live for the weekend and when the weekends come, I don't get to enjoy them? Do I need to see a doctor? Is this, what is this situation I'm feeling? Ladies and gentlemen, that is what we call the Sunday scaries. And it happens to so many of us. And sometimes it's just like a passing thought, like everybody has a job that they may not be really passionate about every single day, but we get up and we do it. And then sometimes it's a little bit deeper than that. It could be because of anxiety, depression, or another thing that is affecting our mindset, how we show up in life, how we show up in our families, how we show up in our career, and whether or not we choose to buy out that time for the things that help us to manage the Sunday scaries. So if you find yourself right now, or perhaps in the future, experiencing the Sunday scaries, there are 3 things that you can do in your self-care to help you manage it, okay? So sounds too good to be true, but it really works. A good night's sleep. This will help you to awaken and feel more refreshed and energized. Plan something enjoyable for Sunday evening. If one thing I found in my experience is that if lesson planning on a Sunday was not that enticing to me, I would actually do that on a Friday, even if it meant that I personally was choosing not to go out on a Friday night because I didn't need to go out every Friday night, so to speak. But it meant that if I just spent a little time here getting this done and getting the week set up, I can enjoy the weekend without the anticipation of upcoming anxiety or dread. So I will be able to have that Sunday evening to watch a movie I enjoy, read a book, spend time with my family, spend time with my husband or my fur baby, having fun with friends, and doing other things that help me feel refreshed and then ready to go into the week. And I also would buy out time to practice other aspects of self-care, and we'll get into some of those other aspects later on in the webinar. So by doing these things, you can put the Sunday scaries in its place, But I'm not saying ignore the feeling. I am saying acknowledge it, realize it, do something about it. And if it needs to be addressed in a different way, then perhaps it could be something else underlying it, causing the Sunday scaries to be a little bit more overwhelming than they should be. And you might need to seek a conversation with your provider about that, okay? So self-care for impact. We want to show up. We want to live our best lives. We want to make the difference in the lives of those students that we love and lead and teach. So one thing I know to be true is that educators who practice self-care are self-aware, and they can have that impact. We know that as teachers, a lot of the things that we do and say, our students observe that. And as leaders in our classroom or maybe in our districts, other people observe what we do and how we respond. And it seems like we could be an example or a pillar in so many areas. Oftentimes, teachers are spotlighted. So if you want to show your students how they can practice self-care and be self-aware, it really does start with you. Number two, the more consistently one practices self-care, the more opportunities for personal and professional growth, happiness, fulfillment, and satisfaction. So before we go any further, or as we finish up this slide, go ahead and drop in the chat, what are some of your ideas for self-care? Because we may need to redefine it, all right? So go ahead and drop that in the chat. Number three, when it comes to having self-care to make an impact, I want to make sure that I am connecting with you and helping you provide a framework for self-care so that you can thrive, all right? As teachers, oftentimes, especially as we navigate through this pandemic, it may feel like we're just in survival mode. And if any of us who are on here started teaching before the pandemic, it feels like that survival mode got amplified once the pandemic began. So I want us to be able to figure out what things that we're doing that are working, that we should continue, what things should we add that can help, that we need to implement, and then what things may need to be done away with altogether for the sake of our mental health, our physical well-being, and those key relationships in our lives, okay? So keep in mind, you are a teacher. That means you are a person. Oftentimes, teachers are put in a category of a superhero, and you are a human too, all right? And because we're human, we often experience levels of stress due to the demands of the job. And we know this coming into the profession. Stress can have a variety of effects on us, including our physical and mental health issues. It can impact lower job satisfaction and even lead to difficulty focusing on tasks. When it comes to our physical health, the stress can cause symptoms such as headaches, stomach aches, fatigue, insomnia. It can even lead to or amplify the development of chronic health issues, things like high blood pressure and heart disease. And I'm not a person in the physical health space, but one thing I do know is that our heart health is important. And if we don't manage it, it could lead to even more chronic situations like strokes or heart attacks. So stress can damage. It may seem small, like a little headache or a sleepless night here or there, or maybe more regularly, but it could lead to a bigger thing if it's not properly managed. When it comes to mental health and the impact that stress can have on teachers, we talked about how it can lead to feelings of anxiety, lead to feelings of depression, being irritable, having that difficulty concentrating. And it can make things that we used to enjoy seem less pleasurable. When it comes to job satisfaction and the impact that stress can have on teachers, it may feel like, you know what, I am not happy with this. I can't do this. I don't want to do this. Oh, do I have to go? Those types of things can be a part of one's mindset. And when it comes to stress, it can lead to decreased motivation for the job that we do, causing us to feel less inclined to put in that extra effort and give our students the help they know they need to succeed. So stress even impacts our relationships, how we get along or maintain relationships with our colleagues, our students, our own family, our friends, and ourselves. So these are just a few of the ways that stress can impact us. And it's important that we recognize what's going on and reach out for help. Talking to a mental health professional or another provider can help you to learn how to best manage stress. And as a mental health advocate, I want to remind you that we need to be aware of these things because our mental health is connected to our physical health, okay? So earlier I asked you to drop in the chat if you had a definition for self-care. And so I'm just reading through. Let's see. All right, so someone says that he enjoys hiking and kayaking. All right, we also see spending time outdoors with the kids, taking time to exercise and relax, intentionally setting aside time with no tech just to be fully present with one's self. Oh, I even see this one. Sometimes I am stressed and don't even realize it until it breaks me down mentally, physically, or spiritually. You know what? I resonate with all of those comments. And first of all, I want to applaud each of you for being willing to share your view of self-care, what you do for self-care, and what you realize when you haven't practiced self-care, okay? So my definition, I said self-care redefined. So this is how I began to look at self-care. Self-care is the process of taking care of oneself by using behaviors that promote health and active management of illness when it occurs. Also, those of us who engage in some form of self-care daily, then we're able to be more present, more successful, happier. And those daily things we can do for self-care can include having a morning routine, being decisive and aware of our food choices, getting regular exercise and enough sleep, seeking and implementing mental health support, and taking time for ourselves to just be individuals outside of being teachers or any other roles that we have.
When our students are reading aloud, we zone out. We zone out hard. We are there physically, but not mentally. But like in my defense, I've read this book probably 7 times. So it's hard. I've got a lot of other things to focus on.
So this teacher may sound like quite a few of us. As an English teacher, I often would allow my mind to wander, y'all. Personally, my mind would wander as we were going through passages because I would sometimes think about, what am I eating for lunch today? Or what's going on my grocery list? Or how am I going to solve problem XYZ? Just different things would personally come into my mind. And what I realized at that point was that I needed to focus, number one, on what the student was reading. Perhaps they needed assistance with words or understanding a concept, and I needed to be able to jump back in. So my mind should not be wandering. I realized that. And number two, I also realized that there's something more useful that I can do that will allow me to practice self-care without adding to my anxiety. Okay, so I want to talk about the concept of somatic self-care. Somatic self-care is the practice of taking care of your body through physical activities and mindful awareness. This could include exercising, stretching, yoga, breath work, massage, or other forms of body-centered practices. What I want to share with you today are a couple of examples for breath work, and we'll get to that in a moment. When it comes to somatic self-care is about creating and cultivating an awareness of the body and its sensations, as well as nurturing a positive relationship with the body. It's going to allow you to listen to your body and respond to its needs with kindness and compassion. So I'm not saying that we should be beating ourselves up because we allowed our minds to wander, especially if we were teaching and needed to focus on our students. But we do need to implement self-care at a level that is practical, and that may not require us to make a massage appointment, especially if we're in the middle of class. So one simple thing that we can do is breathe. We're already breathing, all right? But by practicing somatic self-care with breath work, it allows us to be more aware of how we breathe, okay? So we're going to do a technique called box breathing. And this is a simple technique to help regulate your breathing and allows you to keep your mind focused. This is something that you can do even when you have a classroom full of students. This is something that you can do when you've been called to come to the principal's office and you're a little bit anxious about, why do I need to talk to the principal? What did I do? What did I not do? What is this about? What could this not be about? We're already breathing, so let's just make it more intentional. So when practicing box breathing, we're going to start by inhaling for a count of 4, then we'll hold our breath for a count of 4, then we'll exhale for a count of 4, and then we'll hold for a count of 4 again, and you can repeat as often as possible. So I'm going to demonstrate it. And then I'm going to go through it again to allow you to do this with me, okay? So inhale for a count of 4. Hold your breath for a count of 4. Exhale for a count of 4. And hold for a count of 4. All right, so together, whether you are live in the audience with us today or whether you are watching the recording, let's practice this box breathing. So we're going to inhale for a count of 4. It's like the first line on the box. All right, so inhale, hold, exhale, and hold. Okay, so inhale, hold, exhale, and hold. All right, so that is the box breathing technique in somatic self-care, doing breath work. We're already breathing. When we're anxious, sometimes it can cause our breath to speed up, or we may notice that we stop breathing. So when you practice a technique such as this one, it makes you more aware. We're making that mind-body connection. And we can do this while our kids are reading and the mind wants to wander. We feel anxiousness. This can bring us back to the present, allowing us to be mindful in the moment, okay? And you can repeat this for as long as you like. You can also probably do this while you're standing at that copy machine or the copy machine is no longer working and now you're ready to see if somebody has a sledgehammer for it. But seriously, be aware of your breath. Another technique, okay? So we're going to call it alternate nostril breathing. This technique is used to help balance the two hemispheres of your brain. We will start by closing your right nostril with your thumb and then inhaling through the left nostril. And then after a few breaths of that, we'll close the left nostril and inhale through the right. And you can alternate through that as often as you like. So let me demonstrate it for you. I'm going to hold my right nostril with my right thumb and breathe through my left nostril only. And now alternating, bring my left nostril completely and closing it, breathing through my right nostril only. All right, so let's try that together. Cover your right nostril with your right thumb. Let's breathe from the left nostril only. Now let's cover our left nostril with our left thumb and breathe through the right nostril only. All right, so how are you starting to feel? What do you notice about your breath when you have to be intentional with how you breathe? Go ahead and put that in the chat. As you are practicing somatic self-care, breath work is going to be one of those simple things that you can do. I saw in the chat that someone says she does this while she's driving. That's an excellent idea. And it helps you to quickly decompress. You can take a moment to do this as you're monitoring the hallways during class exchange. You can take a moment to do this if you have elementary students and you're taking your bathroom break together or walking to lunch or just about any possible scenario, okay? Be creative and think about, how can I practice box breathing right now? How can I use alternate nostril breathing right now to practice some breath work, allow myself to be more calm, more centered, more mindful, less anxious, less stressed in this moment. So a couple of things I see in the comments. Someone says she notices she takes longer breath. Someone says you notice for the first time the fact that you are breathing. Yes, making that mind and body connection. I feel calm. I love breath work. Absolutely. I'm so glad that you all are seeing techniques already. And this is something that's simple and it's easy to do, okay? All right. So you may already be familiar with different categories in which we can implement or practice self-care, okay? So they are physical, emotional, spiritual, intellectual, social, and sensory. And this is not by any means a completely exhaustive list, but I do want to take a moment to share with you different things that you can do in each of these categories. And again, they are not completely exhaustive list, but I just want to provide you with some ideas. And as we go along, I would love for you to put your additional ideas in the comments so that as you're taking notes and making your plan, you have several things to keep in mind that can work for you. Everything does not work for everybody, and self-care is by no means a one size fits all. And that's why I wanted to provide something that could go with different categories or aspects of your life to allow you where you may want to implement some of these things. So some ideas that I would like to share for physical self-care can include going to the gym or finding another way to incorporate movement or exercise in your day-to-day life. You may want to practice stretching or yoga. We talked about being a somatic self-care practice, eating healthfully, going for a walk, dancing, okay? A bike ride, getting a pedicure or manicure, experiencing a facial mask, and there's so many different kinds of facial masks: charcoal mask, mud mask, sheet mask, exfoliating, just all the things, right? So many different ways to incorporate some sensory self-care with that too. There's even taking a long bath or shower. Getting dressed is an example of physical self-care. Of course, we've mentioned sleep and rest as a part of self-care. And I want to emphasize again, stretching. And I think I say this and sleeping so often because like those are my default. As a matter of fact, I'm standing now for this presentation because I know for myself personally, if I sit too long, my joints are not happy with me. And I have one of those mats that I can stand on. And I wish I thought of this while I was teaching. So this is a tip. If you like to stand as a part of your physical self-care, or of course you're standing throughout your teaching day, having a supportive mat can help you to be able to endure. One of those anti-fatigue mats will help your muscles and joints, throughout the day, along with proper footwear, okay? So let's think about emotional self-care. Emotional self-care can incorporate practices such as painting, playing an instrument, writing, making a drawing, doing an act of kindness, playing a game, and saying affirmations. I love affirmations, and I've created affirmations. You can even download affirmation apps. As I work with people, we create affirmations customized to them, and oftentimes realize that we need to overcome limiting beliefs so that we can fully embrace and embody those affirmations. So a limiting belief is what our brain tells us that's that negative thought or something that keeps us limited or boxed in. For example, if you tell yourself, I have a beautiful smile as your affirmation, but your limiting belief shows up and says, no, you don't, girl. You don't see the way your teeth look. You don't see the shape of your mouth. You can't have a beautiful smile like that. That's a limiting belief, okay? So what we often have to do is address that limiting belief, figure out where it comes from or who or what experience gave us that limiting belief, and then come up with a power statement, which is another type of affirmation to help us address the limiting belief, dismantle it, and fully embrace that affirmation that we said at first, okay? So emotional self-care could even include taking care of mental health. Spiritual self-care. Activities such as meditation, going into nature, giving to something that you believe in, going to church, or participating in a religious experience or activity or service, inspirational quotes, writing in your journal, tidying your environment, smiling, having or creating a digital or analog vision board. These things can lend themselves to spiritual self-care. As we think about how so many different areas of our lives are connected, we would probably be remiss if we don't allow activities for us to be flexible, whether it's at work or away from work. One comment I want to highlight from the chat right now is don't forget the self in self-care. Yes, so we can personalize this. Another comment I see is that there's so much negativity in the classroom, including the classroom. I love that you are emphasizing positive self-talk. Thank you. And yes, I wish we had more conversations about positive self-talk and the uplifting effects that it can have on us and our overall well-being. I see that we have pedicures and making sure we get enough sleep as defaults, as go-tos. I love that. We cannot neglect how we take care of ourselves inside and out. All right. So another area I want to highlight right now is intellectual self-care. This can include reading a book, whether it's like a personal development or professional development book, whether it is a book for just sheer entertainment. One of my guilty pleasures is reading autobiographies because I get entertained and I learn. I love to learn. I think I mentioned that before. But learning a language is a part of intellectual self-care. Going to school or finishing a certification, something that allows you to begin and go through a course, learning new skills, doing things like crosswords and Sudoku, listening to podcasts, reading for personal growth. All of these things are examples of intellectual self-care. There's also social self-care. Spending time with family and friends, spending time with your significant other, chatting with someone or meeting someone new, hanging out with a friend, having positive social media feeds, asking for help, planning an activity or getaway, having dinner together with other people you enjoy being around. When I think about social self-care, to be honest, I think about introverts who may not embrace this as fully as I would like. I am an extrovert, and I think I have practiced quite a bit of social self-care. I'm heavy on that, but I think about introverts, and I'm curious to know how well do they embrace it. And again, I don't want anyone to feel any discomfort with this. I want you to practice the self-care that's best for you. But I do want to recommend not skipping over a category just because you don't like it. You can be an introvert and still enjoy social self-care. Sometimes I tell my introverted friends, I am your extrovert support animal. So if you if you are going to a social event and you're like, okay, there's too many people, and then they call me and say, I'll go if you go with me. So it gives them a chance to be out, but still be comfortable in the environment. And the extrovert is what they want from the environment. And it's a win-win. So think about how can you be social even if it's not your default. And then the next category I mentioned is sensory self-care. This can include things like eating your favorite foods, burning a candle, listening to music, watching a movie you enjoy, unplugging from technology, cooking a meal you haven't tried before, experimenting with the new recipe, buying flowers for yourself, going out into the sunshine and getting a massage. So different things that allow you to include most, if not all, of your senses. Okay. One thing I mentioned a moment ago was about having a positive social media feed. Sometimes we need to be selective about what we allow ourselves to see or experience on social media, and we can go through and determine like what we want to do about that. For example, at one point in my teaching career, there were some people who were on my feed who always had something negative to say about the school district. And I decided to unfriend or unfollow those accounts because I didn't need that type of energy in my life. And just because that was their experience didn't mean it was my experience or the experience of others. And I didn't want my mind to be fed with that. So I know we talked a lot about things you can do offline, but when we're online, we have to be aware of what is coming across our news feed and into our mind, okay? All right, so developing self-care habits. We talked about different areas of self-care, different ideas for those areas, and you all were willingly sharing in the chat some of your personal things. So the main takeaway I want you to keep in mind is that self-care is a habit. And just like with all our habits, we have to start them and keep practicing them in order for them to become a habit. So some habits that I would like to share are taking regular breaks throughout the day to refresh and renew your energy. I know how it feels to show up, in the parking lot, and then you're going in, you're signing in, you're getting to your classroom, you're setting everything up. Do you have the tech right? Do you have the seating chart right? Do you have everything organized? Do you have the copies? Do you have the links? Do you have all the things? And then you're rolling through with your classes and your lesson plans and their observations and the visitors and the announcements and all the stuff. And then you take break for lunch, and it feels like you got 5 minutes to get it down, or to make a copy, or to return a phone call or email or respond to something. It's okay to press pause. It's okay to take a moment for you. It's okay to give yourself just a few minutes and be creative about where those few minutes are so that you can get some refreshment, so you can get renewal to go through the next class or go through the other part of your day, or to continue with what you need to do after you leave your environment, your work environment for today or that day. Another habit, again, repetition will help you to remember this. Prioritize sleep. Make sure you are getting enough rest at night. Making sure you are shutting your mind down, allowing your mind to allow you to have refreshing sleep at night. Exercising regularly will help you to reduce stress and clear your mind. And you can determine, what that regularly looks like for you. Connect with other teachers and colleagues to get support and share ideas. We as educators often share. We often ask questions. We reach out. We reach over. We reach up. We borrow ideas. Don't feel like you have to be a one man or one woman show and have to do it all. See how other people have figured it out. What systems do they have in place that you can implement yourself? Wait a second, I'm jumping ahead. I'm trying to read the chat. So someone says, wow, you are so right. I barely get a chance to eat. I teach pre-K and I'm always busy. I definitely understand. I didn't teach pre-K. I taught 9 through 12, grades 9 through 12. And I felt the same way. I hear you. So we have to be strategic about what habits we put in place throughout the day and what habits we put in place away from the workplace. One of my favorite habits, for those who are listening to me speak for the first time, of course, it's the first time you're going to hear me share this. But for those of you who have attended another event with me before, or if we were connected before today's webinar because of social media or something else, you know that I would be doing you a disservice if I did not talk about boundaries. I think boundaries is my favorite B word. Establish healthy boundaries between work and home life to ensure you have time for yourself. Sometimes, as a teacher, I know what it feels like to sometimes think, well, I need to be available. I need to be there for my students. But let me tell you what's more important than that. You also need to be there for yourself, okay? So establish those boundaries, and we're going to talk about how to do that in a moment. This is what it may seem like.
Oops, got your coping skills. Now let's see what we got. That's not a coping skill.
It could be distressing sometimes to think, you know what? I need to take a personal day. I need a mental health day. I need a sick day. But it's just so much work involved with creating those lesson plans and setting things up, getting a substitute. I don't want to go through all that. I'll just show up anyway. You are actually doing yourself and your students a disservice by not taking care of you, okay? And if it was a way to schedule, I'm only going to be sick on summer break and on the breaks we have away from school during the school year, then I'm sure that we would do that. But life doesn't work like that. Our bodies don't work like that. If we have kids and other loved ones, that doesn't work like that. So we have those sick days and personal days there. By having boundaries and realizing that you need to take those days, go ahead and have a system in place so that you can prepare the others. PTO, please prepare the others so that I can take care of me and mine. All right. So how do we set boundaries? One way is to set a designated work schedule and stick to it. I am guilty of leaving work in the afternoon and coming home with a bag of papers to grade, and then knowing I needed to do things for my home or for my family, but instead I'm trying to get through those papers and then putting those papers back in the bag and bringing them back to work. And at some point I had to realize, you know what, I cannot operate like this. I'm always working because I'm always working. So what I had to learn before I made the transition out of the classroom was when I was going to work. And I had to decide, if I stayed late, how often will I allow myself to stay late? And at what time will I leave so that I'm not always staying late or staying longer than I needed to? I know what it's like to be the only teacher car left in the parking lot after hours. And I also know that because of the nature of the job, there are things we have to do outside of our contractual hours. So I had to determine what is going to be my work schedule. When, on the days I choose to stay late, when do I stay? And I would set a timer. I would set my timer, and when that thing would go off, I knew I was done, and I could stick to that boundary and allow myself to leave at that time, make notes for what needed to be done at a different time because I had to honor that. Number two, we already mentioned this, but again, I'm repeating it for emphasis. Make sure you take regular breaks throughout the day. Remind yourself to stand up and stretch. When possible, I know with getting someone to cover you to let you take a restroom break, but please take a restroom break. Make sure you are scheduling time throughout the day for those quick breaks. Make sure you eat, okay? You have to schedule those breaks. Make sure you are drinking water, staying hydrated. I know what it's like to be a teacher and you got your favorite mug with all your teacher fuel, but you know, take those regular breaks. Number 3, designate certain times of the day when you will not respond to emails or other work-related requests. Personally, I would think to myself, the weekends, that's my time. I'm not contractually obligated to talk to a student over the weekend. And even if I was out of the store or ran into a parent away from the school, if they wanted to talk to me, I would remind them, well, this is the procedure for us to have this conversation, because standing here on this aisle in Walmart is not the time or the place. So stick to those boundaries with your students and colleagues. If you have a colleague that wants to contact you to help them troubleshoot something, again, remind them when you are available and when you're not. If you do choose to do work at home, have a designated workspace for that so that you are focused and not distracted. And again, that goes back into those designated work hours and sticking to it. Try to limit the amount of after-school activities and events that you do attend. I know sometimes we have to show up to certain things, but when are we allowing ourselves to do too much? All right. We can spend time with family and friends to help us stay connected and balanced. We can remind ourselves of, I have a life outside of this building or outside of this classroom. I want to allow myself to be poured into by the people that I love outside of my students or those I work with. Connect with those family and friends, keep those key relationships so that we stay grounded and enjoy ourselves. Make time for yourself to relax and do things that you like to do. Remember hobbies. Remember those fun things you enjoyed when you were a child. And they don't have to stay in your childhood. You can pick those activities back up. Seek out support from colleagues and other teachers. Again, we're learning what systems and things they have in place that are working well for them so that you can also do things to make your life a lot easier. Getting enough sleep and exercise will help you to be energized and productive, and not sacrificing that particular time in order to do things for work. Don't be afraid to say no. No is a complete sentence. Say no when necessary. And be reasonable with your time. Realize you have the same amount of time in each day as everyone else. Don't take on much more than you can bear. And it's okay to delegate. It's okay to ask for help.
Kevin Costner, he so much wanted to be. I always like how they write this. It's like, he so much wanted to be. No, I'm sure he did. He's so much.
It's okay to write those lesson plans for the substitute. We have substitutes so that we can do the things that we need to do when we're away from the school if it happens to fall during a school day, okay? And to be honest, I don't know many other professions that allow someone else to show up in your place when you are not there. So it's okay to write those sub plans. It's okay to get a sub. It's okay to take a mental health day, a personal day, or a sick day, or whatever it's called, in order for you to take care of you and get your doctor's appointments done, get the other appointments done for your family, because you are important, okay? So take that time to do that. Have those boundaries in place. One resource I've created is the Set Healthy Boundaries for Self-Care and Confidence workbook. And one of the activities that I help people with in this workbook is figuring out what are their boundaries and how to create them. And if you have a moment, I want you to take a second to write down, what do you have a right to? What do you have a right to? You don't have to copy the boxes, but just complete the statement, okay? What do you have a right to? So you have the right to eat lunch at lunch. You have the right to leave work at a certain time without staying all evening. You have the right to allow your opinions to be heard, okay? Those are some examples. What do you have the right to. You have the right to say no. You have the right to live your life in a way that you enjoy and feel fulfilled by. Another statement I want you to complete. I feel angry when someone does this to me. I feel angry when someone does this to me. Is it that someone insists you do something that's not urgent and they want you to do it immediately? Is it that someone is ignoring your requests? Whatever you realize, these are cases of your boundaries being crossed. Next sentence. In a perfect world, I will not allow people to do this to me. In a perfect world, I will not allow people to do this to me. Make judgments, communicate with me disrespectfully. Those are a couple of examples. And then 2 new boundaries I want to set. I will speak up if someone takes advantage of me. I will not allow someone to treat me unfairly. What's personal for you? 2 new boundaries I want to set. And again, you can write this in your notes, or if you feel inclined, you can post these in the chat. And I'll give you a few more seconds in case you're still finishing one statement or the other, because I want to go on to the next part of this exercise as you think about setting healthy boundaries. And they may be related to your career as an educator. They may be related to another area of your life. But I want you to think about, what do you have the right to? What causes you to feel angry when someone does something that crosses your boundaries? In a perfect world, what will you not allow people to do to you? And what are 2 new boundaries you want to set? All right. So in order to preserve your energy and precious time, what do you have to do? So personalize it. To preserve my energy and precious time, I have to, maybe it's unfollow people who like to complain on social media. Maybe it's spending less time with people who expect you to be self-sacrificing. Maybe you need to be okay with changing your decisions if you need to. What do you need to do to preserve your energy and precious time? Next, I want you to write down things that you tolerate, even though you don't like to tolerate these things, you hate them. So I tolerate these actions, even though I hate them. Maybe it's people cutting in line in front of you. Maybe it's your significant other not helping with the chores. What do you tolerate, even though you don't like it? All right, I'm going through the chat before we move to the next part. So yeah, people were resonating with, oh yeah, I've taken home bags of papers. I'm trying to get better by closing my laptop, my school laptop. I feel angry when people play with my time, when I have to remind them 50 times to do something, like my time is not valuable, just like theirs. I feel angry when someone has never taught, gives me their expertise on what I need to be doing. especially at places like family gatherings or social outings. I feel angry when someone gives negative, unsolicited advice. I feel angry when people always think that they are right and I am wrong. I feel bad about replying to texts long after hours, is what I tolerate. All right. So now that you've shared some things, we're realizing where we need to put boundaries in place. So I'm going to give you a moment to think about and begin to write about what challenges will I face when setting new boundaries for myself? What can I do to make myself better when facing these challenges? And again, they may be related to your career as an educator or another area of your life. One thing that people may feel is that they might lose a friendship or another key relationship, or that people won't like them if they set a boundary. Remember, it's your job to set the boundary, to remember the boundary, and to enforce the boundary, because you're protecting yourself and you're protecting what's important to you. People may not like it, and you can't control that. But you cannot allow yourself to always be the self-sacrificing individual or to be the person who's feeling resentment because you allow something that you didn't agree with. It's up to that person if they want to preserve the relationship when the dynamics have to change. All right. So you may realize that you have some writing to go back and finish. You may realize that your wheels are turning, and as you go throughout the rest of your day after this webinar or after watching this recording, that you want to continue to set boundaries or realize other areas where you need them. Perhaps you have some questions that we started in this exercise that you need to finish. I would love to know what your thoughts are and what you come up with. And at the end, I'll be sharing my contact info. If you got that resource that was placed in the chat, you'll also have the resource, my contact info there. And you can share with me later what your thoughts are from this exercise, if you choose to, but you're not obligated. All right. So since we're talking about setting boundaries as a way of implementing self-care, I want to share with you 10 ways that you can say no. And I'm sharing a variety of ways because depending on the situation, the no may need to sound different. Number one, no, but thanks for considering me regarding this. Number two, I'm already going to an event tomorrow. Now, that might work if they're inviting you to do something and you're already obligated to be somewhere else. And of course, you can't be two places at one time. Number three, now this one is particularly helpful when you are not sure how to reply, or you need time to prepare an answer, or need time to consider something. So it might be, I'm in the middle of work right now, or I'm in the middle of a meeting right now. Can I let you know once I've checked my schedule later? Number four, I have a tight deadline this week. Can I get back to you in a few days' time? Number five, work is really busy this month. Can it wait until next week or next month? Again, sometimes we are confronted with situations in which we need to say no in order to preserve the time that we've already set aside for other things we're obligated to do. We already have a date with ourselves for our self-care. We already have plans with our family, friends, or other events. Or we may already be doing something for work and we can't add one more thing to the schedule or to the plate or take on another project. So these ways can help us to say no in a way that allow us to honor the boundaries that we have and honor the obligations we have. Here are a few more ways. Maybe someone else can assist with this task, and it doesn't have to be you. We can remind the person who's asking to go to this other person. For example, you know what? Jane is really good with showing how to organize her Google Classroom. It's phenomenal. Have you seen it? You know what? Maybe you should reach out to Jane. I'm sure she may have some suggestions. Just ask her. I think she's the best person who can help you with that. Another way of doing that could be, you know what? Really, I don't feel comfortable helping you with that, but maybe someone might be able to. Again, you're asking them to help somebody who's just as qualified as you, or even more qualified as you, who can most likely do this, or they may not have thought to ask them because they're always asking you. And in the past, you've always said yes or jumped right in and helped. But now you're trying to set those boundaries and you're trying to let them know other people can be just as resourceful, if not even more so, and they can seek other ways and get other help for these things. Number 8, if you are dealing with people who like to take advantage of you and they keep asking you to do favors, and oftentimes these types of people are repeat offenders, so to speak. They're always coming to you as the go-to person, and they don't reciprocate when it's time for you to ask them for help. They constantly take advantage of you in your kindness. So a way of setting a boundary with them and saying no is, you know, I'm actually too occupied right now to do that, but I can show you how to do that for yourself. I can't do it for you. I can show you how to do it for yourself. Or, you know what? There's a YouTube on there. Have you Googled it? Have you went to YouTube? I'm too busy to do it, but have you tried that? And they can show you step by step how to do it. Number 9, this is good for dealing with overwhelming demands. Okay, I hear what you're saying. You want all of these things done. Which one should be first? Because I can't do all of this at once. Or I'm available to only do one of these things you want me to take care of. I can only do that. So you need to ask somebody else to do these other things. Number 10, I love to help, but I'm focusing on blank right now. You know, I'd love to help, but I'm working on my self-care right now, and I'm not going to skip that. I don't have time for anything except blank at the moment. Yeah, I know we got this assembly coming up, and right now that's the only thing I have time for. I won't be able to help you with this other project. Okay? Maybe you've thought of some additional ways, and you can drop those in the chat if you want. I see a comment, I've been working on my no. It's so refreshing. Yes, no is how you take your power back. So as we get ready to come to the close, I want to remind you about simple things you can do to live your best life as an educator. And I've said this throughout the webinar, but I want to make sure you keep it in mind. Make time for yourself to relax and do things that you enjoy. It's reading, exercising, anything else that we talked about that helps you to deal with your stress and manage your stress and help you experience joy. Maintain healthy relationships with your family and friends. Spending time, quality time with those that you love can help you to slow down and realize what's most important in life. And yes, you're doing an important job. You have an important work to do. Your kids need you, society needs you, but you need you too. Your family and friends need you too. Don't let life get so busy that you neglect yourself and neglect these other key relationships. Having boundaries in place will allow you to keep work at work. So set and reinforce boundaries, not only for work, but other areas for your life. And don't forget to take care of your mental health. Don't neglect it. Our mental health is related to our physical health and so many other areas of our lives and how we can be healthy. Taking care of your mental health could be things like journaling or meditation, But it could also be something like seeking professional help if or when it's needed. I want to applaud those of you right now who are still in the classroom, still in the educational field at some level. And if your desire is to stay a teacher or in some aspect of educating as long as powerful, I want to commend you for that and encourage you to keep doing that. Teaching is such an important and rewarding profession, and there's a lot of hard work, and the dedication is invaluable. You are making a difference for those students. It may not be every student on every day, but you are creating an impact. And there's no greater feeling than that. It's one of the joys that I loved when I was in the classroom. But don't forget to take care of yourself. Remember that you are appreciated, no matter who else tells you. You set the tone and set the pace for how others treat you by how you treat yourself. And by practicing self-care, you are increasing your deserve level for what you desire in your life. If you are currently not in the classroom, perhaps you are at the district level or another level at the school, and you're not necessarily a teacher or hands-on with the students in the capacity that a teacher is, there are some things I want to encourage you to do as well. Provide ongoing professional development opportunities for teachers that are tailored to their individual interests and needs. Make it relevant. Teachers want to be engaged, and those who love teaching, they want to learn, they want to grow in their profession, but they need your help to do that. Offer incentives and rewards for teachers who go above and beyond in their work. Maybe it's more time off that they get paid for. Maybe it's bonuses or other forms of recognition. Teachers stay where they are appreciated. Give teachers the support from administrators and the school board or other district leaders. This can include providing resources, offering mentorship opportunities, creating open dialogues to discuss the challenges that teachers face. This type of support will help teachers feel appreciated and valued. Don't forget what it was like to be a teacher. Don't forget what their experiences are every day as they're doing all they can to help our students. Our teachers and our students are the true reasons why those who leave the classroom to work in other areas of education in leadership so they can have a greater impact. So please do things that allow them to feel appreciated and heard and encouraged. Don't just say, oh, go do self-care. Hope you find a webinar on that, which I'm glad to provide. But show them how you appreciate them. Show them how much you appreciate what they're doing for those students, and let the students know as well. So in our webinar today, the main objectives were for you to develop a self-care plan that helps you improve your life, family, and career. Create a list of actionable steps to improve your life as a result of self-care, and to develop a holistic and realistic view of self-care. For those of you who may choose to leave the education profession, I did run across another resource that can help you with that. That's not my expertise, but if you visit the Teacher Career Coach, she has a plethora of resources to assist you with that. If you find yourself or someone you know and love needing mental health support, I want to remind you about the 988 hotline. You can text that and they can provide you with support. You can also find more resources at the website provided on my screen. And I also want to point out 2 additional resources. Alchemy, which is a Black mental wellness company. They also have a website. They have a webinar coming up on the 17th of February 2023. And for most of you, it may be taking place during the school day. I'm not sure if there's a recording available for those who register but I do know it's free. And then I would be remiss if I didn't provide the link to Happier Living. Happier Living is the resource that I began using in October 2021. It's a place where you can see a mental health provider virtually. And that's how I am able to meet with my personal therapist. So the resource is there, the website is there for you to explore that if you need it. And the English teacher and former librarian in me would not let me finish without providing my works cited of 15 years of telling people, document your sources, don't just copy and paste from the internet. I still practice what I preach, even though it's a real. So I wanted to let you all know how you can go and explore the content that I found today. I still follow these accounts. Board Teachers is one of those relatable Instagram accounts. They also have accounts on other social media platforms, but I just connect with them more on Instagram because that's mostly what I use. But Board Teachers has a lot of relatable content. There's even podcasts and all that kind of stuff. So if you are looking for more things about, you know what, those teachers get it. They get it. I'm there. They understand. Yes. And Dr. I just found Dr. I in the past couple of weeks. And a lot of her content, she's teacher 1 or teacher 2. And to be honest, I was a lot like teacher 2. Don't tell my district. Anyway, I want to remind you that we started this conversation because of this cycle, knowing what the Sunday scaries are like, anticipating the weekend, anticipating thinking that I'm going to take my time and my power back, but then it may not happen. A year ago, a woman I know left work and she didn't return because she ended up experiencing her own mental health crisis. And after that was on medical leave. But I've come to learn that that's not just her story. So many educators find themselves in that situation. That's why my message to you is to do things that you enjoy. Take care of yourself holistically. Travel, experience life outside of your district or where you live. Seek mental health resources that allow you to take care of yourself and practice self-care in some aspect regularly. Make it a habit because you are worth it. If you want to connect with me, like I mentioned before, I'm a self-care coach and former educator. I have my website provided here. My blog will be launching soon in 2023, before the spring of 2023. I have a Stand Store link that's available on the screen as well. And of course, you can email me. My email is martita@askmartitarobbins.com. My mission is to help women overcome self-doubt and limiting beliefs, to set boundaries with grace, practice self-care, and elevate for success. Other ways you can partner with me, I create workbooks, I speak at professional development opportunities. I've also created ebooks. I love to participate in and help speak at different webinars, summits, conferences, and retreats. I'm also planning a self-care retreat. Tentatively, we're looking at the fall of 2023 or the winter of 2024. I also offer one-on-one and group coaching for clients who choose to partner with me in that way. And of course, you can always join my newsletter group. You can stay connected with me by emailing me again, Martita@askmartitarobbins.com. You can visit my Stand Store. So it's stand.store/Martita Robbins. And there is where you'll have access to links to join my newsletter, other free resources. You can see that YouTube video for the Nigerian reality show that I was on, speaking with those Nigerian educators. And of course, when my blog is launched, you'll be able to visit my blog and see different articles and other resources to help you at askmartitarobbins.com. Okay. So I would love to entertain any questions that you all have for me. I'm going to leave my screen up for a moment in case you are writing this down. If you got a chance to snag the resources that were added to the chat earlier in the webinar, it also has the links to all of these things, as well as how to connect with me on social media. And I would love to hear from any of you about some of your takeaways, questions, or anything else you'd like to share, either on this webinar as a result of the recording, or anything you want to share in the email is fine as well.
Thank you so much. That was so good. Just not only the, the breathing techniques. When you said boundaries was your favorite B word, I was like, oh, boundaries and breathing. I don't know which one I like the most. But just thank you so much for the realism of the, not just like go do self-care, but showing us, like saying what the problems are, but then telling us how to, like some of the things we can do to try to solve them. Because there's no like one fix for everybody, and then giving the like real life resources at the end of like how you can actually get self-care. I do have a question, and then I'm going to, if anybody wants to ask, you can unmute yourself and just wait for me to say your name. So I heard you say that your mission was to help women. Do you do anything with men? Can men contact you?
Men can contact me. I primarily work with women, but men can definitely contact me, and I'm so glad you asked. If I'm not a good fit to work with them, I will be able to refer them to someone who can.
Okay, and when you do trainings and things like that, can it be a mixed group like today?
Yes, definitely mixed groups, virtually or in person. But just for my one-on-one and group coaching, primarily women. And again, if I'm not able to assist any of the men, then I'm able to refer them to someone who can.
All right. Thank you so much, Martita. This was just amazing. I appreciate it so much. And I want you to use the rest of your Saturday for self-care.
Of course, I will.